I have the best story ever to tell. Paleontologists, people who study ancient life like dinosaurs, always have amazing stories, because what we discover is often better than fiction. I've always loved the Earth, rocks, and dinosaurs. Honestly, I don't understand why everyone isn't a geologist or paleontologist. Imagine this: seeing something that no human has ever seen before, or learning something that no one in history has ever known. That's what makes this job so exciting. Recently, scientists discovered the remains of a huge dinosaur in Argentina. It was called Dreadnoughtus, and it was 26 meters long and weighed about 59,000 kilograms. That's heavier than several elephants. It lived 77 million years ago, and its bones were amazingly well preserved. Finding dinosaurs isn't easy. There's no machine that tells you where they are. You have to know rocks and geology, and you have to go outside, walk around, and keep your eyes on the ground until you spot a bone sticking out of a rock. Once, I worked with a team from the University of Pennsylvania in a desert in Egypt called the Bahariya Oasis. We went there in 2000 and 2001 to look for the lost dinosaurs of Egypt. These were 4 kinds of dinosaurs that had been found long ago by a German scientist named Ernst Stromer in 1911. He found amazing dinosaurs, including the famous Spinosaurus, and sent their bones to a museum in Germany. Sadly, during World War II, the museum was bombed and all those dinosaur fossils were destroyed. Since most of those dinosaurs were known from just one fossil, their loss meant that those species were wiped out from science. So we went back to Egypt to try to find them again. I even worked with Stromer's family and read his old journals and looked at his photos. I found the exact place where he had dug up Spinosaurus. We even found old German newspapers, plaster, and sardine cans left behind, but no bones. Still, while searching nearby, we discovered a new giant dinosaur. It turned out to be the second largest dinosaur in the world at that time. We named it Paralititan, which means tidal giant, because it was a huge plant-eating dinosaur that lived near mangrove swamps by the sea. It was like a brontosaurus, with a long neck and long tail, walking on 4 legs. Finding that dinosaur made me even more excited to keep searching for these amazing giants of the past. Finding the second kind of ticked me off a little bit. Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last. So I set my sights on southernmost Patagonia in Argentina, down near Tierra del Fuego, a place that had rocks of the right age that were sedimentary rocks that were exposed in vast badlands. Think of the Badlands National Park in South Dakota. Times like 20. It was about 1,000 kilometers away from where any other paleontologist was working, and there was a single note from a German who went down this river in 1922 that he spotted some fragments of dinosaur bones. And so that was like the perfect situation for me. So I went down there first. In 2004, near the end of that field season, we found a 2.2 millimeters femur that's 7 foot 1 inch. It was about a meter around one of the biggest bones of any kind that have ever been found. That bone was isolated, but it made us hungry to go back for more. So I go back the next year. And on the first day of that field season, find another almost 2-meter femur. Only that bone was not isolated. And we dug at this location for an additional 4 field seasons. I spent over a year of my life living in a tent next to this animal. We ended up excavating 145 giant bones of a new genus and species of plant-eating dinosaur. I named it Dreadnoughtus because all fleshed out in life, it would have weighed 65 tons. That's the mass of 13 African elephants. That's the mass of 9 T-Rex. That's about 10 tons heavier than a Boeing 737. I don't know what you're feeding him, but he's too damn big. And so if you are that big, what have you to fear? Except perhaps gravity, and thus the name fears nothing or Dreadnoughtus. Dreadnoughtus was a really interesting creature. When you get that big, you have to have all kinds of evolutionary innovations just to survive. Like, how do you have limbs that can support that kind of weight that it clearly could? I think one of its biggest metabolic challenges is shedding heat. If you took elephant anatomy and scaled an elephant up to 65 tons, I think its flesh would literally cook inside of its body because it wouldn't be able to shed heat efficiently enough. So that long neck and long tail that these sauropod dinosaurs have are basically giant radiators, so they have a lot of surface area per volume. Plus, they don't have bellows lungs like us mammals do. They have what we call bird-like lungs, which really should be called dinosaur lungs, because dinosaurs predate birds. It's two sets of lungs that are kind of like a two-stroke engine, and it's an efficient way to circulate air. But we think they were also attached to a pneumatic system that invaded their axial skeleton, their spine, so that they could take heat from their neck and their tail and all over their body through their respiratory system and dump it out that way. And then that long neck is basically a feeding apparatus. So a Dreadnoughtus could stand in one place with that long neck, clear out a huge envelope of vegetation, taking in tens of thousands of calories. Do that for an hour or two, and then go up, move, a little bit to one side or the other, and do it again. You should floss. Their stomach is the size of a horse, and it's this big bacteria vat surrounded by a mountain of flesh. And so they just gulp down the vegetation and let the bacteria do all the work. So again, it's super efficient. And so these dinosaurs achieved incredible things. Things that must be on the edge of what is biologically possible indoors in laboratories. Now we're beginning to study dinosaurs in the way that a biologist would study a raccoon or an otter today. And so, we use a lot of technology now. We use, synchrotron and CT scanning and 3D technologies. Scientists named Mary Schweitzer as well as Beth Shapiro here at Colossal were some of the founders of a new field of study that is molecular paleontology. And so now we are routinely recovering ancient biomolecules from dinosaurs and other extinct creatures, proteins, blood vessels, possibly blood cells, bone-building cells. And so I'm hopeful that in the laboratory we will begin to learn more and more about dinosaurs.